Welcome to the Pole Shift News and the home of the Magnetosphere Observatory. Just going through the global weather maps we've got on Pole Shift News, and I was thinking to myself, I think I'll share this with you guys because it doesn't seem to make any difference, does it? This day and age, what we've got in our armament to predict and forecast weather. You even ask a climatologist to give you a heads up what's going to happen in the next 24 hours, and they shrink in their chairs. It's becoming really unpredictable. Doesn't matter whether we're looking at current satellite photographs, radar, temperature, total precipitable water in the atmosphere, or the sea surface temperature. Doesn't seem to make any difference, guys. What we have, it's really hard to predict the next outcome. And it's not just what is taking place in nature. What's becoming hard to even work out these days is human behaviour. Even that's unpredictable, and I think everything is coming to a single point at some point in time where it's all gonna fall horribly apart. We've not even reached equilibrium yet. What I mean by that is things haven't even got halfway through where they need to get, and at that point, and halfway point, it will be the worst before things start to gradually get better. We've not even hit the equilibrium point yet, so it could be another 20-30 years. It could even be a lot longer than that. I mean, for many of us, we might not even be here at the point of equilibrium with all what is going on. I was looking at the jet streams today, and look at that one on the southern hemisphere, a good 4,000 mile wide jet stream. Again, look at the weather crossing the equatorial region from this subtropical region to this subtropical region. We got interaction with subtropical southerly jet streams around Australia right now, and they are definitely clashing. We got subtropical jet stream here, polar jet stream here, clashing right over the west coast of Australia. That's going to drop on the coastline, probably around Richards area, some precipitation in that region. If we just take a quick look at the residual humidity, we can see just around our globe, the wet zones today at this point in time. They'll probably change in the next 24 hours. But this is what's causing and creating all the floods. And this, I think, is new territory, observing, this subtropical mixing over the northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. That means, whilst one half of this planet is in its winter and the other's in its summer, we've got interchange from the winter side of the planet to the summer side of the planet, where it's transferring, all that water in the jet streams up into the northern hemisphere subtropical regions, and then it is being transported by the mixing of the polar jet streams over the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. There's no way you can predict what's going to happen next, guys, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And equally, guys, I'm sorry, it sounds a little bit pessimistic today, but equally our behaviour on this planet's going to get worse. We don't work together globally. Yet we're all one species, and we're spread out all over this planet, and we're not working together. Our ancient civilizations had something in common. It's not widely talked about. There was pyramid building all over this world, and it weren't Christopher Columbus that first crossed the Atlantic Ocean. There must have been more previous generations that did it more regularly, because one thing in common that was taking place globally on our earth was pyramid building. It's not something that's talked about readily, but what that indicates is that there was something globally accepted by the people or the inhabitants on this planet. You don't find that in our day and age, do you? So we have a lot more worse things to come in terms of volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, whatever's going over on our Antarctic and Antarctica, is only going to be revealed when it happens, just like the weather. When it happens, we're not going to be able to make too many predictions that are going to come right. We can just say at this point that things haven't got to the worst and they're going to get worse. It's not just what's taking place on our planet, guys. It's happening in our solar system as well. Our sun is behaving abnormal at this point in time. Let's have a look. Let's pull up some solar data. Well, we can see no sunspots again on the disk. Are we in solar cycle 25? Are we still in solar cycle 24? Nobody really can put the finger on it. And the reason for that is because even the sun is acting abnormal. The sunspots during a solar maximum and solar minimum are mixed. It doesn't make any difference anymore. You can't predict where we are like we used to be able to with regards to where the sunspot's positioned on the disk. So, things for the last 33 years have been deteriorating with, the predictability of our sun. We live in massive, massive uncertain times, guys. What we can say is that the grand solar minimum is still reducing. The Earth's magnetic field is still weakening, and as a result of that, as you can see on this space environment overview, that when this happens, more cosmic radiation is inbound, and that sets up, perfect conditions for more water vapour to end up in our atmosphere over the northern and southern hemispheres of this planet. Solar storms are at the lowest. In fact, look at where they are in 2015, and you can see that the last time this was recorded was in 1865. Here's our 3 last solar cycles, exponentially diving off the chart. It's unpredictable, even coming from NASA. They don't know whether the solar cycle is going to end in 2017, 2018, or even 2020. There's that many lines. We got 3 average lines. Which one? Take your pick. Doesn't seem to matter. We have had reports that it shouldn't have even been sunspots recorded in 2015. So we're a little bit behind on those reports. There you go. We know what happens when sunspot numbers drop off. We end up with more than minimum periods of times that's been recorded. The little ice age looks to me more to be the case to be the little or the large glacial period. There's 11,000 years of sunspots. You can see it's not just the last 33 years that they've been dropping off. They've been dropping off for 11,000 years. Just before this time period, we was in a glaciation. A glacial period. Those, by the way, don't last 50 years, guys. They last thousands of years. You look at the average, we're well overdue a glaciation. You can see that. It's coming to it. There's lots, excuse me, there is lots and lots of data, guys, on the website for you. We cover everything. Yeah. Sea ice extent maps. Let's have a look at how the sea ice is doing over the Arctic region. Oh, what a coincidence, no data. But they've still managed to put the line in for July, the red line, the one we're on now, 2019. According to this, we're below minimum at this on the average. Wind speed around the world. All these are updated regularly. I noticed earlier on when I counted the amount of active volcanoes actually in eruption, not active but just in eruption, they are down on figures the same as last year, and you know guys, by about half. And some people say, well, we've had a look at them, and what you're showing here is not what we see, but these are only the volcanoes that are in a state of eruption. And the reason why I want to see erupting volcanoes, not ones that are trembling or showing signs of eruption or have recently erupted, is because it's the only way you can gauge on whether something is getting worse or not. If it's in eruption, then I think that's a good starting point. Because if we have a look at how many volcanoes was in eruption 12 months ago, you'll find that there was nearly 30 as opposed to just around about half as is today. So there isn't that many, or let's say there's almost a 50% reduction in actively erupting volcanoes today than there was 12 months ago. That might be an indication that something is changing in our core. Quick look at the Schumann frequency. Some people believe that the Schumann frequency actually affects their mood. Are you one of these people that are affected by the electrical activity taking place with regards to lightning strikes per second? You know, when there's more lightning strikes, more electrical activity on the planet, does that affect you? This is our background resonance or frequency. This has been around with us ever since we've been on the planet. They thought it was that important, by the way, you know, to put in the shuttle on the way to the moon for the Apollo missions, I believe a device that actually repeated the frequency of the Earth. This is like, if you like, the Earth's heartbeat in the background. But are you affected by the changes in the frequency? Usually about 7.8 hertz per second, or 7 or nearly 8 lightning strikes per second somewhere around the world. That's what makes up the Schumann frequency, if you didn't know. So yes, right now, a lot of unpredictability. Can't predict the weather. Can't predict human behaviour. And even recently, it's getting harder to predict the magnetic pole migration. And that is because now we're having to factor in when it is you want to take a reading at any given point. So what I'm saying is, guys, if, like what we've been seeing over the last few months with recent activity of the magnetic pole moving 250 miles easterly and then moving back to its original position, you know, 250 miles west, you know, depending on when you measure or take a sample of where the pole is, you know, it could be off the next day by 250 miles. It's only because, you know, on our observatory we're recording it every 3 seconds that we're able to know exactly what's going on. We record it at an incredible resolution of 3 seconds intervals over 24-hour periods, over 365 days, and we've covered that for the last 2 years like this, guys. That's why we're able to know what's going on with that magnetic pole. And we can say, you know, that we are close to that 40-degree mark. And if it's able to go easterly by 250 miles, then it's only a matter of time before it goes westerly in an advancement 250 miles. And if it doesn't do it in a given day, then it will gradually do it over a period of probably 4, 5 to 7 years maybe, if we're lucky. And if anything over the last 30 years is anything to go by, with the deteriorating global climate, then we can say, you know, when them poles go into a reversal, we can expect a lot more worse to come. And depending on how fast it takes before the poles actually reverse and stay like that is going to be, a time probably close to those mentioned in biblical texts, because a lot is going to take place, and we're starting to see slowly get worse and worse. Look at the 4,000 mile jet streams in width over the southern hemisphere. Look at the interchange between the polar jet streams and the subtropical jet streams. Look at the amount of land that has been flooded this year alone, guys. Look at the amount of land that has gone offline because the land is unusable for cropping. There has never been a point in time where there are so many humans heavily dependent on the technology and heavily dependent on the food production and the energy production to keep the artificial environments in which we live in going. It is just a matter of time before we rock the boat and a huge amount of water comes overboard and sinks us. It is a matter of time. And like I said at the beginning of the video, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. And if you're not aware of what's going on around you and you haven't made any provisions, then when that water comes over, you're not going to be one with a life jacket on. So I know it sounds harsh, guys, but you really need to start making preparations for what is about to come, because it's like it says in that Bible, you will reach the hour where you'll have already used up the oil for your lamp and there will be no oil and you'll be in darkness. And just think about that. Do you want you and your loved ones to be sitting there in darkness when this happens? Trust me, it's happened to thousands and thousands and thousands of people already on this planet. It's just a matter of time before it knocks on your door. Are you going to be unprepared at that point? There will not be a government on this planet that will come to your aid during this. I hope you got the message, guys. There's a link down there. If you want to help what we do on our observatory, then the links are down there. You can support us on Patreon or PayPal. It's entirely up to you. We're not trying to frighten anybody. We're just trying to give them the heads up so that they can make the decision on what they need to do next. It's as simple as that. Have a great weekend. I'll catch up with you at some point. We're getting close, remember, to the 17th when we pull the SD card out of the Trimag system, have a look at what's been going on over the last month with regards to the magnetic North Pole and its migration. So, as always, guys, bye for now.